friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here today to talk about yogurt making. Now, I haven't done a video on yogurt making since probably the very early days of my channel, and part of the reason why is I kind of got burnt out on it for a while, and then we weren't getting all that free raw goat's milk from a friend, so I just kind of got out of it for a while, but have been wanting to get back into making yogurt again using the whatever organic milk that I have. We do not have easy access to raw milk around here, so I get what I can, usually from Misfits Market now. So I did just recently do 2 different batches and making them a little bit different from each other. This first one here is made from just regular whole milk. And you can see it's got your standard consistency of yogurt that you'd buy in the store. But this one was made almost entirely from half and half. I did top off my jar to where I wanted it with a little bit of whole milk, but it's mostly half and half. See the difference in the thickness? It is very, very creamy and yummy. I love this one. Now, the great thing about this though too is because of the thickness of it, this would make a really great sour cream replacement. You can even use it as a cream cheese replacement in certain recipes. Yogurt making is super, super easy, and you don't have to run out and buy a special culture. All you have to do is make sure you have a good plain yogurt that has live active cultures in it. That's what's important, which most yogurts now that you buy do. And then the amount of that you use is going to depend on the amount you're going to make. Now, you're probably wondering why I've got this jar wrapped up like this. I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. But this is the size jar that I used to make the yogurt. The first batch, I only filled it up to about here. This is, I'm not exactly sure, but it's a recycled green olive jar. And I think it's a little better than a quart. I know a liter is a little bigger than a quart, but I'm pretty sure it's bigger than that too. But at any rate, the exact amount isn't super important. But when I used to make the yogurt, I would use about a half cup or more of the yogurt as my starter to a half gallon. Now, some people say that using less is actually better. So for the last 2 that I made, I decided let's just go for a heaping tablespoon of the starter and see how it works. So I did that with the first batch, which is here, the one I did with the whole milk, and that worked out really well. And then I think I might have used a little bit bigger tablespoon in this, but I also filled the jar up farther because I filled that jar up to here. The half and half came to about here, and then I just brought it up to here with the whole milk. What you want to do is you want to get whatever amount you're going to make. So what I do is I fill the jar up first, and remember that once you start heating it, it's going to cook down a little bit and not take up as much room. But I fill that up so I know how much I want, because I wanted to do it in this jar. And then I poured that into a pan that's got a good heavy bottom. And then I set it on what I have back here is since this is time of year, we're getting lots of solar power. I use hot plates. We don't have a fire going in the wood stove, so I use hot plates hooked up to solar power. So that's why this is here. So I just use the hot plate and put the heat on low and let it slowly get up to 180 degrees. You don't want to heat it too quickly or it will get hot too fast. You don't want to damage everything in it, but you do need to get it to 180 degrees. Now, I think some people do a more raw version than that. This is just what I had learned and what I always do, and every place I've come across says the same thing. So I use this thermometer, and I will link you to it. I used to always buy those cylindrical glass ones, and I would always break them. Then when I saw these stainless steel with the thermometer here where it's a lot more protected, I bought 2 of them and haven't broken a single one. But it has a clip that you can adjust, and so it has a stand on the bottom as well, so you can keep it pretty firmly in place in whatever pan you're using. So anyway, once that got up to 180 degrees, I then immediately remove it from the heat, set it and set it aside. But keep the thermometer in there, because you're going to want to keep coming back and stirring it. You want to stir it while it's heating up too. You don't have to stir it constantly, but just keep coming in and stirring it every so often. And then same thing as it's cooling, so you can keep an eye on it, and the stirring will help it to cool down faster. And what you're trying to do is get it down to between 110 and 115 degrees, because you don't want to add your culture to that too soon while it's too hot, or you will kill your live cultures in there. So what I did was I put the tablespoon in the jar first, then just let that sit and kind of come up to room temperature while I'm slowly heating up the milk. And same with the half and half. Okay, the whichever you use, or if you use half and half milk or whatever. Of course, you could just take heavy cream and add it to your milk in whatever amounts you want. But the method is still going to be the same. So I mix that yogurt in really good. And then I just put the lid on at that point and immediately stuck it. And this was the first time doing it this way. And then I'll talk about my old way of doing it. But since I have a Cosori dehydrator where you can take all the trays out and have that big open spot, I decided to try using my Cosori. Now here's the nice thing about using a dehydrator like that for making yogurt is you can keep your temperature consistent. And so I started off, and they say and it said between 110 and 115 degrees. I decided to shoot for somewhere in the middle, so I started off with 112 degrees and then lowered it. After a few hours, I noticed it was already thickening up really, really well. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and lower it down to 110 and just keep that consistent. And you want to keep it like that for about 24 hours for it to fully culture. And that, I was very impressed. It was so easy. I didn't have to bundle it or anything like that. Just stuck it in as is. And then same thing with the half and half version. Then once it's done, what you do next is going to be entirely up to you. You're still going to have a separation of the yogurt and the whey. Now, I like to pour a lot of that whey off. You can save that whey. You can use it in smoothies. You can feed it to your chickens, your dogs, or you can even use it as fertilizer on your fruit trees. Fruit trees love whey, which is what I do because my dog won't eat it. And I haven't tried it with my chickens yet. I keep saying I'm going to run out there and put it in their water, and then I forget. But anyway, I use it as a form of fertilizer for my fruit. So what I use is a batter bowl. This makes it easiest. And then a mesh strainer. And then over the top of the mesh strainer is then where I put the cheesecloth. Because that's going to make it, having the strainer is a lot easier. Then you don't have to worry about all the clothespins. Before I got this nice mesh strainer right here, it's stainless steel. I used to take the cloth and just clothespin it all the way around. But that is kind of a hassle. So you can just lay your cheesecloth on there. You can double layer it. You can single layer it, however you want. You want a good fine cheesecloth. This is double layered like this. You want it a fine woven cheesecloth, or you can even just use 100% cotton fabric that's nice and clean, obviously. And then you just pour it in there and let it strain. And then come back after about an hour and check it and see if it's the thickness you want. If you decide you want it a little thicker, like I did with both of these, you can take that and then you just can sort of, squeeze a little bit gently, press some of the liquid out. Now, one of the things I want to do next time I make yogurt is I want to make a thicker, harder type cheese like I've done with just milk, just making cheese. But this time I'm basing it off a yogurt culture rather than using vinegar to make the cheese. And I want to see what I think about that for flavor. And I think it would turn out really good, which, by the way, I did just recently. You won't see it for a little while yet, but I just recently remastered my old cheese making video. So this is just starting with raw milk and then you have your vinegar, and then you can add whatever seasonings to that. And I show how to do all that. So be watching for that video to come out in the near future. So I want to do the same thing with the yogurt just to see as far as flavor, but you can do that. Or you can just leave all the way in. You're going to have a little bit, you're going to have a thinner yogurt if you do that. But what I like to do when I do leave the whey in, maybe for the purpose of having that whey because it's really healthy for you, but I still want it thicker, is I simply add seeds like chia, flax, poppy seed, soaking in the liquid. That will actually thicken that up just sitting in there. And I just mix it in. Then I'm getting, if I'm just going to eat it anyway, I'm getting the benefits of those seeds as well as getting a thicker yogurt and leaving the whey and just having all that goodness in one. So it's all going to be a matter of choice in how much whey, if any, you want to strain out of your yogurt and how thick you want it or how you plan on using it. Like I said, this thicker one here with the half and half would make a great sour cream replacement. And either of these two can be used in making ranch dressing, which I have a video out on, I'll link to down below. You have a cup of mayonnaise, which I used homemade mayonnaise. So the video, I show how to make the mayonnaise first, which I do a little bit differently now. I use 1 part coconut oil, the refined coconut oil, so I don't have the coconut flavor in it, to 3 parts of avocado oil. So if it's a cup of oil, I would use 3/4 cups of oil to 1/4 cup of the coconut oil, melted obviously, and then let it get to room temperature because I melted the coconut oil, and then add it into the egg mixture. So I'm just telling you that ahead of time because in that video I was making the mayonnaise, I think, with just avocado oil. But you can do it either way. But anyway, from there, then I went on to making the ranch dressing, and I still follow that same recipe for the ranch. And it's super easy. It only takes a few minutes. But yes, you can use milk kefir, you can use yogurt, or you can use sour cream when you're making your ranch dressing. And again, that's going to depend on how thin. If you want it as a dip, doing it just like that would be perfect. If you need it thinner, you can always add some milk to the ranch dressing to thin it out. There's all kinds of other ways, of course, using yogurt however you want to use it, but you can then also turn around and dehydrate it once you have it made up if you want. I would just make sure you always keep at least a fresh amount ready to go to make more yogurt at some point. Because once you have your yogurt made, if you're going to keep making yogurt and it's something you consume quite a bit, so you don't have to keep buying a yogurt to make it, always making sure you keep, when you get down to the last bit, use that as your starter for your next batch. Because then from then on, all you're needing is your milk or your cream or whatever it is you're going to use to make your yogurt with. So it is super, super easy to make your own, and you can make it as thick as you want. You can add whatever you want. Just make sure you always start off with a plain yogurt when you go to make it. Okay, then the other thing I wanted to talk about is if you're off grid and you have a wood stove, what I would do is once I got my milk into the jar, usually at the time I was using a half gallon jar, so I would use a bath towel for this. So what I would do is as soon as I got the culture mixed in with the warm milk, I would then wrap it in a towel. And I learned this trick from Stacy from Off Grid with Doug and Stacy years ago. So you take one corner of your towel, then you take the next, and then you turn, then you do the next. Instead of doing opposite sides and then opposite sides, you need to do it this way. Otherwise you won't have a place to tuck that last end in. And then you just tuck it under that last wrap that you did, and that's going to help keep it warm. And then I would just set it close to my wood stove, close enough that it would keep it warm for the next 24 hours. So obviously, since I don't have fires going right now, I'm not going to use that method, but I can run my dehydrator off my solar power, which is what I did. And I didn't, since it was in there, there was no need to wrap it. I could just stick it in there as is because it was already going to keep that temperature. But this is just to, keep the cooler air off and to, hold that heat in. But then having it close to your wood stove will, of course, then keep it warm as well. The only thing I didn't like about that is sometimes your fires, can get cool during the night, and you're not going to always keep such a consistent temperature, so you might not have as great a results as using either a dehydrator or even your oven, if you can get your oven at a low enough setting that it's not going to get too hot, because you don't want it to get above 115 degrees, or you again are going to kill your culture and you're not going to get your yogurt. So there's several different ways though that you can culture your yogurt. And so there's two, using either the dehydrator or this method if you're totally off grid, or if it's that time of year you got fires going on a regular basis, just making sure you bundle it well while it's nice and warm, and then immediately set it next to your heat source. And it can even be an electric heat source if you have electric heat, just wherever your electric heat is, someplace where it's going to help keep that temperature a little more consistent. But if it gets too cool, it's going to drop down and it's going to slow the process quite a bit. So you might have to leave it longer. But then again, it can also become more tart the longer you leave it. And that might be a desirable thing. I like it just like this because it's not super tart. It's a nice, mild, creamy flavor, and it can blend well with just about anything. So in fact, I love the flavor of this one so much, the half and half one, that I can eat it plain. In fact, I can eat this one plain too. I don't even need to add fruit to it. I like it just as it is. So it's really quite good. Then you're getting that good gut-friendly bacteria as well that can help with so many issues within your digestive system. So I hope you enjoyed this video and that you found it helpful, and you realize if you've never made yogurt before, super easy. All you got to do is have your milk and a live culture yogurt. You don't have to buy anything special. And please share with us your ideas, your favorite ways or types of things to make your yogurt from, or ways to use it, in the comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.